In the world of calisthenics, the core is often the underlying focus of many of the skills and exercises that we push ourselves to perform. Because of this focus, there's often, at least in my opinion, an over-fixation on core-specific exercises in calisthenics athletes' training, to the point where entire training days are dedicated to core training in isolation, often with pointless exercises. When we consider that we only have so much time to not only train but also recover from a more typical and highly demanding calisthenics training, it becomes very difficult to justify spending significant periods of time dedicated to core-specific exercises, especially as even the most basic bodyweight exercises already involve the core. But that being said, today I'm going to go through 4 core-specific exercises that I do religiously, and more importantly, why these 4 exercises specifically. Let's get into it. How you doing, Cali Crowd? Welcome back to the channel that makes calisthenics simple. Crowd, the core can be a very ambiguous term, so for ease of clarity, in today's video we will loosely refer to the core as the torso, trunk, essentially anything that isn't a limb or attached to the end of a limb. I'm also going to go on record and say that if you train to a calisthenics tailored methodology, then you likely do not need a core specific day in your training. If you think that you do, consider the amount of core activation needed in even the most basic bodyweight exercises, and ask yourself, when are you recovering and maximizing the super compensation benefits that we get from resting between training days? Even still though, the 4 core specific exercises that we're going through today yield fantastic benefits. So let's jump straight in with the first one, which is the hanging leg raise. In terms of core hypertrophy, you will struggle to find a better exercise. The hanging leg raise is phenomenal for core aesthetics, but beyond that, it does have application to calisthenics skill development. In a skill like the L-sit, we can quite obviously see the application of the hanging leg raise, but we also see it perhaps more subtly in a skill like explosive muscle-ups, where a lot of the force we generate comes from tension in the legs, hip flexors, and core. In fact, there is so much spillover benefit from an exercise like the hanging leg raise to an exercise like the high pull-up that I actually use the hanging leg raise to kickstart my pull training sessions. The rationale being that in this position, we are setting our midsection for the movements of a typical pull training day. The reverse hyperextension is the second core exercise that I do. Many people fail to consider that the back is part of the core as well. By overworking muscles responsible for hip flexion, we can open ourselves up to a whole host of issues with imbalances in the hips that can have knock-on effects to joints all over the body. Reverse hyperextensions are a fantastic antagonist movement to the hanging leg raise, strengthening the muscles responsible for hip extension that tend to atrophy over long periods of time spent sitting. Now, some may argue that an exercise like the deadlift can give us many of the posterior chain benefits of reverse hyperextensions, which is true, but that discounts the benefits we also gain from specific adaptations that we look to build for bodyweight skills such as the back lever and planche. Okay, so the 2 exercises we've gone through so far actually use the core to create movement, but actually the main function of the core is to prevent it. The next exercise achieves this in a way that has very obvious application to calisthenics skills, and that is the dragon flag. I say the dragon flag, but actually I personally can only manage regressions of it, but in terms of general core activation, I can think of no better exercise when it comes to calisthenics skill application. Everything from shoulder position to hip articulation to body line to tension control, this exercise has it all. The dragon flag is a cornerstone for leveling up to more advanced calisthenics skills and goes hand in hand with the other anti-extension core exercise that I do, the ab wheel rollout. Another one that I do in a regressed version, but the rewards speak for themselves. In this position, we find ourselves resisting hip and spine extension, which we see throughout bodyweight training, but we're also leaning heavily on the stability we can create at the shoulder and force we can drive with straight arms. Again, the practical application to skill work is quite obvious, and we can draw parallels to planche work, handstand pressing, and levers through the ab wheel rollout. Crowd, the point I'm trying to make is that core training does not have to be complicated. By incorporating 1 or 2 of these exercises into our day-to-day calisthenics training, we can work our core in the way that we want to strengthen it in accordance with our calisthenics goals. But crowd, I want to know what you think. What are the best core exercises in your opinion? Do you disagree with what I said in this video, and do you actually prefer training core exercises all on one specific day? Let me know down in the comment section below, and crowd, I'll see you in the next one.